it went about the myopia, and first of all, myopia is becoming much more important than it used to be before, because in East Asia and Southeast Asia, the prevalence is increasing to 80 to 90% of the population in the age group of 18 to 20 years. And of course, this will continue when these generations get older. The myopia has advantages and disadvantages. The advantage is that moderate to medium myopia is protective against age-related macular degeneration and probably also protective against diabetic retinopathy, which belong to the most common blinding diseases worldwide. And of course, medium myopia is quite nice. If you become presbyopic, then you don't need glasses for the near. The disadvantage is a slightly increased risk for rheumatogenic retinal detachment. But at the bottom line, the advantages for medium myopia may even be higher than being ametropic. The problem is the high myopia. The cutoff between medium and high myopia may be about -6 to -8 diopters, or an axial length of about 26 to 26.5 millimeters. Beyond that, the risks of myopic maculopathy and of high myopia associated optic nerve damage increases steeply. And these may become the most common causes for irreversible blindness worldwide. That was the reason why already the Wall Street Journal reported about it about 2 years ago. The first one message is that the optic nerve may get damaged in high myopia. This may or may not be dependent on the intraocular pressure. It is therefore called glaucomatous or glaucoma-like optic neuropathy in high myopia. It is very easily overlooked. Most technologies to detect an optic nerve damage are not really working well, so that it markedly depends on the experience of the individual examiner performing the ophthalmoscopy. And if one detects it, one may perhaps lower the intraocular pressure even if it is in the normal range at baseline. And not quite rarely, it's the optic nerve damage which leads to vision impairment and blindness, and not the macula in the highly myopic eyes. The problem is that high myopic patients often go to the retina specialist, who pays much more attention to the macula than to the optic disc. The other question is, why does myopia occur? First, the marked increase in the prevalence is probably due to the process of urbanization and this change of lifestyle, where particularly in China, the children already at a very young age mostly stay indoors and no longer outdoors. As a rule of thumb, one may say that Chinese children in Singapore are myopic and Chinese children in Sydney are ametropic, normal-sighted, because in Australia one spends much more time outdoors. Going for the mechanism for myopia, for axial myopia, which is axial elongation, there is not yet a clear concept. Histology has suggested that the longer the eye, the thinner gets the choroid and the sclera. And the primary question would be which tissue makes the eye longer. Most people would think in the first stand it would be the sclera, because the sclera is the toughest, strongest coat of the eye. But if the sclera would be the primary mover making the eye longer, the choroidal space would have to become wider. But the choroid becomes much thinner. This is a clear counter-argument against the sclera being the primary mover. The other candidate may be the overlooked Bruch's membrane, which is a tiny membrane-like structure being composed of 3 layers, an elastic, collagenous elastic and collagen layer covered on both sides by a basal membrane. But the biomechanical strength of this Bruch membrane may be relatively high. One may need about a pressure of 100 millimeter mercury to make it burst, so that its strength may be 100 times higher than that of the sclera in relationship to the thickness. And the model is that in the mid-periphery, Bruch's membrane is produced to make the eye longer, not touching the fovea, so that the density of the photoreceptors remains the same, fitting with the clinical observation that highly myopic eyes can have a completely normal, best-corrected visual acuity, and the change occurs in the mid-periphery. But if the change is too much, then tension will build up in Bruch's membrane, leading to ruptures, and these are the patchy atrophies or macular Bruch's membrane defects in myopic maculopathy. So that one of the thoughts is that postmembrane may perhaps, on a speculative basis, be a candidate for making the eye longer, to supply biomechanical strength to the eye. And if it's postmembrane making the eye longer, then the retinal pigment epithelium, which produces postmembrane in the mid-periphery, may be the target for any thinking of medical intervening in that process. If one finds the, let's say, the growth factor which makes the RPE produce more postmembrane, then one may apply an antibody which may then perhaps block it. But this is all speculation. I think the focus of research is in Asia, and the Chinese Prime Minister and President already have publicly announced that myopia should be one of the main research in medical focus in medical research. And I think the first step would be to understand why the eye becomes ametropic, because we are born in a hyperopic state, and why some eyes or many eyes now overshoot getting myopic. The hypothesis, which I talked about before, is perhaps one out of many possibilities. It's highly speculative. But if you understand why the eye gets ametropic or myopic, then it becomes much easier. So that research probably will be focused on one hand, on uncovering this mechanism. If then, of course, one would also like to prevent the further progression of high myopia to higher stages. If that would be possible by the injection of antibodies against this, let's call it myopia growth factor, is completely unclear, but of course it would be a dream. Unfortunately, as soon as defects have occurred in the macula, things are gone. Then the patients are prone for low vision aid. On the other side, one important message is one has to carefully examine the optic nerve head to detect optic nerve damage. And one major research in future may be a prospective randomized trial looking for the effect of therapeutically lowering intraocular pressure in highly myopic eyes with optic nerve damage to assess whether IOP reduction therapy is useful or not to prevent further progression of the optic nerve damage.